Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing a 1 of 15 piece limited edition. Now this is part of a 15-piece run, but there are 5 different series of 3 examples per dial color. So this is the 2020 42mm stainless steel Moser Cie Endeavour Cylindrical Tourbillon by Moser and MB&F, combining the best elements of Moser and MB&F. That is a fusion of the legacy machine architecture with Moser's watchmaking, a truly show-stopping timepiece that won the GPHG Audacity Award for the 2020 model year. This watch has it all. As you can see, it is 42 millimeters in an Endeavour case of stainless steel by 48.1 millimeters from lug to lug with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. It is 19.5 millimeters thick, thanks to that legacy machine-inspired domed sapphire, but it actually sits fairly easily on the wrist. As you can see on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters circumference, the watch is a good fit. First, it's the shape of those lugs. You can see they go almost straight down. And on my wrist, although it is remarkably thick, you can see it's an elegant profile. It's got a little bit of quorum bubble to it, I'm not going to lie, but the legacy machine was the mark for aesthetics, and the watch does a good job of holding up that tradition. I can recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference because it's really not that broad across the wrist, and the lugs are nicely shaped for a smaller wrist. From overhead, you can see it is just a good match for a smaller wrist. You would look at that crystal and you'd think, oh my gosh, this is going to be unwieldy, but it will actually slide underneath a jacket cuff because it is so dramatically rounded and domed. A quick note about how to wear this watch. Technically, you would wear the crown inboard if you wanted to watch the time. You could see that the timepiece includes a tourbillon opposite of the display, and if you wish, you can actually set the time backwards. That is, if it's 12, set the time to 6. And then you roll over and the time will be displayed correctly. And the intent with this watch was that you would wear it one way or the other, with either the tourbillon facing the owner or the dial. And there is no right way to wear this watch. It was anticipated that it would be worn both ways by a righty or a lefty. Okay, now, taking a quick look at the hardware and the software, the watch includes a strap that's best described as anthracite. It's not black, but it's too dark to be gray. A large rectangular scale alligator leather, and as you can see, it does include a little bit of a gloss finish, semi-gloss, a monotone stitch, and then a sheer edge showing the layers of construction. As you can see, there's another gray piece of leather on the bottom. It's gator on the top, it's calfskin on the bottom. It is a Moser factory strap in outstanding condition, and the timepiece features a simple, easily adjusted, alternately polished and satin finished pin buckle for quick adjustments. This is the Endeavour case, which means it is going to be generous with its flowing lines. Now, these cases are machined, which means unlike cases that are stamped, Moser is able to first machine the hollows of the flank and then hand finish them. So there's a level of articulation and depth and degree of finish that is not possible with a purely mechanical stamped fabrication. My favorite details are the hollows of the lugs, which are scalloped out and almost mirrored concave surfaces, and they contrast with vertical satin graining on the side of the watch, which is an unusual thing because most caseband graining is longitudinal. The lugs turn down rather sharply, they're tapered, pointed, and polished on their hoods, and then the bezel is concave all the way around, but it extends and broadens at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. And again, with this watch, you can sort of decide which side is 12 and which side is 6. The dial. First thing you need to know, it's sapphire. Second thing you need to know, it's fully loomed, not just the hands, but all the indices as well as the logo. So we're going to see that a little later in the video. The dial itself is Moser's signature fume fade, from light and bright at its center to almost black at its edge. The color here is known as ice blue. It's very similar to the funky blue, but it's a little bit more silver than blue. And as you can see, there's a radial sunburst grain that runs to the edge of the dial. The sapphire is dramatic, but it really doesn't create any distortion, which is distinct from almost every other exaggerated sapphire I've seen. Clearly, the idea here was to give a good view of the dial as well as the tourbillon. And if you look, you can see there are subsidiary bridges under the dial featuring bevel gears to transfer the horizontal turn of the movement to an angle for the display. Now, the tourbillon, first thing, it is a flying tourbillon, and I'll get as close as I can to the camera in the phone right here. But you can see it is a flying tourbillon, so it has no upper bridge to block your view. You'll also note it's relatively tall, as the pillars of the upper tourbillon cage are almost 5 millimeters above the bottom, which is to say there is a tremendous prismatic effect, and that's necessary first to give a good view, but also for engineering purposes. The cylindrical hairspring, like a vintage marine chronometer, it has a cylindrical hairspring with an overcoil at both ends of the spring, both the stud and the collet. Now, the reason for this is when you combine the cylinder with the double overcoils, you get a perfectly centered mass, and it breathes concentrically and develops concentrically no matter what position you hold the watch. So from a chronometric standpoint, the cylinder is there for the same reason it would have been in a marine chronometer, precision, and it's more responsible for the precision and consistency of this watch than is the tourbillon regulator itself. Now, the tourbillon beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. It is a 1-minute tourbillon, making a circuit per minute. And while the movement is a combination of manual finishing and mechanical finishing, you can see the tourbillon carriage itself is almost exclusively hand finished here. It is also free sprung for durability and precise regulation. The hairspring is made by Moser's Precision Engineering subsidiary, which has long been a supplier of hairspring and small escapement-style parts to MB&F. So this is an existing reputation for collaboration that predates this particular collaboration by quite a number of years. Now, the movement itself is based on, let me show you what I can here, the HMC 200, which is the automatic winder that you'll find in the Pioneer. That means the movement is very tough. You can also see as a flying tourbillon, it needs a solid base on its underside with no upper bridge to brace it, and it uses a broad base that uses bearings, ceramic bearings, rather than a conventional jeweled pivot. The movement has a 3-day power reserve bidirectional automatic winding by means of a magic lever system, and you can see that there is a mainspring barrel chaton of gold set with black polished screws. So that's a nod to the pocket watch era of Moser construction. There's also satin graining on the base plate, double crested coatage nav across the bridges. The rotor is both satinated and media blasted, and all the screw heads have been black polished. There's a handsome chamfer on the edge of the bridges that is neatly done, but mostly mechanical. The watch is very, very tough. For a timepiece that is nominally a dress tourbillon, the architecture of the movement is almost exclusively sports watch, and that bodes well for its long-term durability. This is a showstopper and a GPHG laureate. Reach out to Tim Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the cylindrical tourbillon by night.